right, thanks for sticking with us here on 13 News Now Plus here for Live Impact News, our second stream of the day until 3 p.m. here. Myself, I'm Eugene Daniel, alongside producer Nia Campbell, who is in the room with us here in Hampton Roads in our streaming studio. We're monitoring a few things within the last hour. We're awaiting at some point in the next hour an announcement by President Trump. It was supposed to be scheduled at 1, it may be around 2 now. We're also still waiting for some form of press conference by NTSB on that deadly plane crash that claimed the life of former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and his family, amongst others, on board that plane yesterday. Those things have not happened yet, but right now we do still have Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has been speaking for quite a while, answering a variety of questions from reporters there about the end of the year kind of wrap up for the United States there. So let's go ahead and go to the Secretary here, at least the end of his press conference here, and then we have some other things that we want to tell you about on the back end of this.
Allies who want to buy things from us that we just haven't been able to produce fast enough, and so the president's made that a priority to confront. I think beyond that, I think you would argue that in the big picture, long term, we have to understand that the United States has interests in every part of the world that are related to these two threats. In the case of Africa, we see countries that have extraordinary opportunity to develop economically, the youngest population in the world, and the United States wants to have relationships, both commercial and personal, with many of these nations as they emerge in their own right into an era of prosperity. We want to be there to help assist in that if possible. We want to make sure that American interests are taken into account. Unfortunately, there are many countries around the world that in the past have had to rely on predatory practices of other countries to receive stability, to receive funds necessary to build infrastructure or what have you. We want to make sure that American businesses are at the table offering alternatives, be it in telecommunication, be it in artificial intelligence and technology, be it in basic infrastructure. So there's a lot of things to uncover and unpack, and I think in the long term as well. And I think our national security strategy reflects a lot of this. So I wish we lived in a world where we had one major threat. Many of these are interrelated. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I was going to ask my questions in Calibri, but since you do not communicate that
I
in
speak
that
Times
anymore,
New Roman. So.
I am. I'm going to ask in Times New Roman instead. Sorry about the Dolphins.
That's all right.
I know that you don't want to predict anything, but whether you're at these meetings in Miami, obviously not today, but maybe tomorrow, do you think there's any chance of having some kind of announceable progress before New Year? In other words, are we going to be working on New Year's Eve?
We might be, if it's necessary and productive. You know, we're going to work as long as it takes.
Okay.
And by the way, these are the meetings you know about, but there's talks going on every single day. There was a meeting earlier this week in Berlin. There's phone calls every day. Be it with my counterparts that are national security advisors, or my counterparts that are foreign ministers, or what Steve is engaged in, or what Jared's been engaged in, or what even at the diplomatic level, there are days where it's Matt Whitaker, our ambassador to NATO, that's involved in a conversation, or one of our ambassadors, one of the nation states that are relaying back a conversation or involved in one. So there's work happening every day, all the time, probably around the clock. Not just on Ukraine, but on all these other things.
Okay. And then
these are the meetings you know about, and everybody kind of focuses on them as big events, but there's work happening all the time that lead up to those meetings and follow those meetings. As far as predicting a timeline, look, I'm not going to do that. This is a difficult task. It's an important one. We're focused on it. We want to get there as soon as possible.
Okay. So, and then obviously Gaza and Ukraine are still works in progress, but of the peace agreements that have been reached so far, 2 of them are in obvious trouble, right? You know, obviously which ones they are: Cambodia, Thailand, DRC, Rwanda. In retrospect, and I know that work is being done to try and resuscitate these, but in retrospect, do you think that the administration, the president, but also others, declared victory on these too early?
I mean, this fighting, for example, with Thailand and Cambodia did stop. Both sides have made commitments in writing that they signed. Those commitments today are not being kept as a result of both sides claim grievances against one another. And so the work now is to bring them back to the table. The ASEAN ministers will be meeting on Monday. I had a call yesterday with my Thai counterpart and intend to do the same, and we've been involved, the president, in conversations this weekend. And our hope is between now and Monday to work to bring everybody back to compliance with the agreements that were made. In the case of the DRC and Rwanda, we have signed commitments from both sides. Those commitments are not being met. But at least we have the signed commitments. We now can hold people to something, and we can push them. And in that case, by the way, for example, in the case of Rwanda DRC, as a good example, not only have we been engaged, but we have asked our friends on the Hill, both Republicans and Democrats, to also engage in conversations of their own with these leaders so they understand this is a bipartisan, multi-branch of government interest in this topic. But the good news about both of those is we have signed agreements. At least we have something we can push them towards compliance on. But as I said, in many of these cases with peace, you sign a peace deal, there's compliance, something happens, they fall out of compliance, you got to bring them back, you got to try to push. But at least instead of negotiating something new, you're simply trying to now push people back to compliance with what they already agreed on. So I think these were achievements. In the case of Cambodia and Thailand, it actually did stop fighting. It has now restarted, and we are working hard to push everybody back to compliance. And we are cautiously optimistic that we can get there by Monday or Tuesday of next week. We're hopeful. But there's more work to be done to that point. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, you've said, including here today, that Maduro doesn't honor deals. How can the U.S. achieve the goal that you're describing of stopping the drug traffickers and the terrorists without Maduro leaving, number one? And number two, a topic that hasn't been asked about yet, State Department officials have recently met with visiting AFD officials from Germany, and we're hearing from AFD members as well as analysts who see the national security strategy as an effort by the administration to endorse the AFD. Can you share anything about the views of your views or the views of the administration on the AFD?
On the case of Venezuela, I've answered it repeatedly now. I can only tell you our national interest is ending the flow of drugs towards the United States and these terrorist activities that are occurring that include cooperation with these gangs. Beyond that, I'm not going to speculate on what leads us to that outcome, other than to say that we're very committed to reaching that outcome. We meet with a broad array of political actors in multiple countries all over the world. They come, they visit the United States. We want to know who they are. We want to meet with them. We want to hear them out. As I told you, we have a president who generally does not view meeting anyone as a concession. So there are broad political actors. We've met with broad political actors from different parts of the Western Hemisphere as well, and broad political actors from different parts of the world. So I think it's important, and part of our job is to understand the full political spectrum of countries around the world, including countries we have alliances with. I would say that many of our allied countries, they meet with Democrats and Republicans, and sometimes libertarians or whoever, who are political figures that travel overseas, they also have meetings with them. So part of the job of the State Department is to inform the administration about sort of the internal political dynamics of the countries that we have alliances and partnerships with. Because in the end, we don't know what the outcomes of elections are, but understanding that the internal political climate of individual countries is a key part of determining how we approach and pursue public policy in partnership with them. And that's why, we've had recent elections here in the Western Hemisphere, and we've met with multiple people that are running. Meeting with them does not mean we're endorsing them for president of Bolivia or president of Chile, but we do want to know who these people are and what they're about and what they're thinking, because it informs our work. And by the way, so, we do that from the embassy as well. We get a lot of the cables I have is a meeting they met with someone who's going to run for president in 2 years. That doesn't mean we're endorsing the person, but we should probably know a little bit about them in case they win. And even if they don't win, if their party has votes in the parliament or votes in their legislative branch, that's an important factor to consider. Yes.
Thank you. Some key European and regional allies say they're limiting intelligence sharing with the United States because they're worried that the boat strikes violate international law and they don't want to be involved. Doesn't that strain these relations with key partners that you say you need in order to do these broader security efforts in the region?
No, it doesn't. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not going to comment on intelligence matters. Every day I read stuff that's just not true. Every day. I'm not telling you guys you guys are being lied to sometimes. Like, sources will come to you and tell you things. Just because they have a government email doesn't mean that they know what they're saying. Maybe they just want to sound important. Maybe they have other incentives. I'm not opining about your question in particular. I'm just writ large, but I'm not going to talk about intelligence matters. Suffice it to say that the United States, every boat strike we've conducted, okay, this is not people seeing a boat and say, okay, let the drummer get wicked and blow him up. We're not talking about that stuff. We are presenting every single one of these is justified. We know who's on those boats. We've been tracking them from the very beginning. We know everything about them. Okay, there are boat strikes we don't take because they don't meet the criteria, the legal criteria. We have everything we need, and it's one of the reasons why you've seen this massive deployment in the region, is to be able to gather intelligence and paint a picture that we can justify to lawyers based on the law. So I'm very confident about that effort. It's been very successful.
Thank you, sir. Back to terrorist designations. Last month, the State Department designated 4 European groups aligned with Antifa as foreign terrorist organizations. Could we see more designations like that in the works for left-wing extremist groups, and what could the scope
Yeah, I mean,
of
if
that
the
look
group's
like?
involved in firebombing, if there's anybody involved in, activities such as that could potentially inspire or lead to violence in the United States, we're going to designate them. So sure, if you have any we want to suggest, I will look at them. Okay, here you go. I told you we'd get to you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your patience. Mr. Secretary, I wanted to drill down on the way you and the administration see America's national interests, because you said that Ukraine is not on our continent, not our war. You said something in our own hemisphere is more important. So this involves both our commitment to the negotiations in Ukraine, which the President is passionately committed to for ending the rising numbers of deaths, he says. Russian President Putin told my colleague, Keir Simmons, today at the news conference in Moscow, "We do not consider ourselves responsible for the loss of life because it was not us who started this war." Does the administration, does the President, you, the administration, believe that Putin was not the aggressor here? And if so, how can you reach an agreement between two parties when the aggressor will not acknowledge that he invaded a sovereign country? Let me, if I'm just may follow. So how do you reach any kind of compromise or ceasefire when Vladimir Putin repeatedly says, and you say that may not be what he really believes, but he has never said that he would make concessions publicly, and he's never said that he invaded Ukraine. He's always said that that is Russian territory. So why is that not in our national interest? When also in our hemisphere, if it's impossible to eliminate the threat of narco-terrorism as you described it, with Maduro in charge, you've described the extent beyond narco-terrorism and drug trafficking of his threat. You've described it today as a threat to the region. Doesn't that mean there will have to be regime change? And is it in America's national interest to get involved in regime change in our hemisphere, given what's happened before? And why is Maduro this overriding, I mean, he is an overriding threat by all acknowledgement, but why is the former president of Honduras not a regional threat, who was personally involved in hundreds of tons?
Right. So let me take the second one for the first one. On the president of Honduras, I'm not involved in the pardon process, which is what that was. He's no longer in office. So that might be.
He was in a U.S. prison.
No, I understand, but I can't comment on our pardons process because that's not an area that I have many jobs, but that ain't one of them. So I'm not hiding from it. I'm just telling you I don't know. I can't give you an informed answer on that because I was just involved in that process. As far as the question of Maduro and his impediment, look, I've just made the observation that it's hard to make a deal with someone. Everybody says we should go to negotiation. All I'm observing, I'm just saying all I'm observing is he's never kept any of the deals he's made in the past, which makes it difficult to consider making one in the future. Beyond that, I'm not going to speculate about what might or may not happen. Ultimately, I can tell you what our goals are and what our interests are, and that's how we've defined them.
Well, in 2019, didn't he get bailed out by Cuban military, Cuban intelligence, outside forces? And so ultimately, with this blockade, is this partly, yes, Maduro, but partly to get at Cuba and Iran and the recipients of this sanctioned oil?
This action on the boats, these are sanctioned, but these are enforcement actions. That's what they are. They are existing sanctions. And therefore, 80% of their oil is shipped through ghost fleets. Okay, so we understand what we're talking about here. We are talking about boats that are basically privateers, okay, that are flying under false flags, that turn off the transponders, that spoof their true location. They are hired to evade sanctions. We are simply enforcing sanctions. Every one of these has a court order attached to it. We go to a judge, the judge issues the warrant, we're executing. These are enforcement actions. The fact that they happen to impact a terrorist regime, is a good thing, but they are enforcement actions, and we are conducting enforcement actions. On the case of Ukraine, no one has said that Ukraine is a zero in terms of our national interests. We have sold them billions of dollars worth of weaponry. We've provided them in previous billions of dollars worth of weaponry. We continue to provide them intelligence support. And we have sanctioned. The president has sanctioned the Russian Federation. He issued oil sanctions. All the oil sanctions everybody wanted him to do, he did them. He did them a month and a half ago. All I'm saying, now you point to all the stuff about, well, does Putin say this? That's why this issue set is difficult. I'm not claiming anything other than the fact that we understand it's difficult. We understand that you're not going to have a deal unless both sides have to give and both sides have to get. Both sides will have to make concessions if you're going to have a deal. You may not have a deal. We may not have a deal. It's unfortunate.
The U.S. should walk away from that if it
Well,
is not a prime region interest because it's not in our continent.
That's not my decision to make. Ultimately, the president will make a determination if and when he feels like further U.S. engagement is no longer productive or serves the national interest. That's a decision the president have to make. I can't speculate about that. All right, yes.
Mr. Secretary, a question for you on Venezuela and then quickly on Ukraine. You mentioned Maduro was not the only one indicted by the United States in the Southern District. Does that mean it is U.S. policy that not just Maduro, but his top regime lieutenants, cabinet members, that they all must exit?
Yeah, no, I point to the indictment simply as when people say, well, how do we are alleging that he is, and I guess, you can describe it any way you want. I just want to make clear, this is not something we came up with.
Right.
We're basing it on a federal indictment and a superseding indictment.
Cabello's in there.
Yeah, a bunch of people are. And so, but what it proves is, and the reason why I raise the indictments is because the indictments are the point of the $50 million reward. And I believe the $25 or $10 million reward for Cabello and for others. My point is that this allegation, this claim that the Maduro regime is a narco-terrorist organization is not on the basis of political talk or speculation. It is on the basis of evidence provided to a grand jury in the Southern District of New York that returned an indictment. And that's why I point to those indictments.
Can I ask you on Ukraine quickly? Because Russia has deployed its latest nuclear-capable missile system to Belarus, according to that country's leadership. We've heard from a number of European leaders, the Chancellor of Germany himself, that they think this era of Pax Americana is gone, that they are needing to prepare to be on a war footing because of the threat from Putin. Do you believe, does this administration believe today, that Vladimir Putin will end his march on the eastern flank of Ukraine? And do you stand by our European allies against any kind of attack?
Look, we have heard the same concerns from our allies in NATO. It's why we are in NATO. It's why we meet with them. It's why we talk to them all the time. I've spoken to Mark Rutte this year probably 40 times, and he's spoken to multiple people in our administration as well, multiple times. He's been here multiple times. He speaks to the president directly. It's why the United States basically is over 50% of NATO, both in troop commitments and in financial commitments as well. It's why we remain in NATO. It's why the president had a very positive visit in NATO. In the end, that's why we're in this alliance. And that's why Article 5 in the NATO alliance is important, and the president has reiterated that. We think it's a very strong deterrent against any of these fears or concerns that any of our allies in the region may have. And the president's been clear that we are committed to NATO, we're committed to the alliance, and our commitment isn't just rhetorical. Our commitment is in action, in the troops that have been deployed, in the monies that have been spent, in the capabilities that are located, in the cooperation and that work that we do every single day with our NATO allies. The only thing we're asking for, which is not unfair, is for our partners in the alliance to improve their own capabilities. Because the more capable our allies in NATO are, the more capable NATO is.
But
we're going to keep doing our part. We just want them to do more. And they've committed to do more.
But these allies are saying that they are concerned now.
Sure, and that's why we have NATO.
So nothing has changed? Pax Americana, what the Chancellor
I don't
Germany
know.
said,
I don't know why he's saying that. You'll have to ask him why he's saying that. The truth of the matter is that NATO is the key defense alliance and agreement that has provided stability on the European continent. We believe it is stronger today than it's ever been because our allies have committed to increase their own defense spending. The more capable our allies are, we've already made our commitment. We've been spending billions and billions and billions. It's the single biggest part of the largest government budget in the world is defense spending in the United States. So we've already done our part, and our part isn't just rhetorical, it's real. We have troops stationed there, we have capabilities there, we have weapons we've provided our partners in the region as well. We believe that if you want a strong NATO, you want your allies in NATO to be stronger. The more capable our allies in NATO are, the stronger NATO is collectively. And that's why we're very pleased to see them make that commitment of 5%, with the exception of Spain. And that's why the president left our NATO gathering earlier this year so enthusiastic about the future of NATO and about our role in it. And in fact, that's why the president's been working with NATO countries on the Pearl program, which is what's providing weaponry to the Ukrainians today. Go ahead.
Secretario, gracias por su tiempo y por atendernos. Sé que esta es como la 10ª pregunta de Venezuela, pero quiero quedar claro con varias cosas. Primero, usted puede hacer una referencia al comentario que hizo el presidente Trump a Político cuando dijo los días de Maduro están contados. Eso se refiere a días, semanas, meses. Esperamos un 2026 sin Nicolás Maduro. Y me gustaría también que se refiriera a la orden de escoltar esos buques petroleros que acaba de dar Maduro a su armada, esos buques sancionados que ustedes están incautando. Algunos de ellos ya fueron escoltados, no estaban en la lista de sancionados, pero ¿qué pasaría si eso fuera con un buque sancionado? Y por último, Maduro le ha pedido al ejército colombiano que se una como un solo ejército en medio de su desespero por responder a este cerco.
Son tres preguntas. En el tercero, nosotros no vemos eso como algo serio en términos de involucrar las Fuerzas Armadas de Colombia. En términos de los buques, como bien han dicho, creo que salieron 4 buques ayer, que ninguno de los 4 eran sancionados. Y no existe nada que vaya a impedir nuestra habilidad de poder enforzar las leyes de Estados Unidos en términos de los buques que son sancionados. Y en la primera pregunta yo no voy a especular sobre, tendrá que preguntarle a la Casa Blanca, el comentario del presidente simplemente para decirle que sin duda pensamos que el régimen de Maduro es ilegítimo y que su cooperación con estos grupos terroristas en nuestra región, incluso sus propias actividades terroristas, son una amenaza a la seguridad nacional de Estados Unidos. The 3 points that he asked about, one had to do with the Maduro calling on the Colombian armed forces to join ranks with him, and we're not really focused on that rhetoric. We're also not concerned about, there were 4 boats yesterday that were escorted by so-called naval vessels. Those were not sanctioned boats to begin with, but there's nothing that's going to impede our ability to enforce U.S. law when it comes to sanctions. We're not concerned about that. Sanctioned boats, we have the capabilities necessary to enforce our laws. We'll have a judicial order. We'll execute on those orders, and there's nothing that will impede us from being able to do that. And on the first point, the question was something about President Trump had said that Maduro's days are numbered. I didn't hear that quote. Was that a recent quote? ¿Esto fue reciente?
El 9 de diciembre.
Yeah. So ultimately, look, our observation is the same I've made here repeatedly, which is that the fundamental challenge we have here is that the Maduro regime isn't just illegitimate. They openly cooperate in terrorism against the United States. And that's a problem. And it remains a problem, and it's at the core of this.
Habló con María Corina Machado. ¿Tiene pensado recibirla en Washington?
No está nada programado. Yo creo que ella todavía está en Oslo. Pero obviamente yo he hablado con ella mucho en el pasado. Go ahead.
Are you going to tell us in English?
He asked about Maria Corina Machado. I believe she's still in Norway. I'm sure there'll be a meet. She'll come to the U.S. at some point, and I've obviously spoken to her many, many times over the years.
Thank you, sir, for taking so much time with us today. How many visas has the State Department revoked under your leadership so far in the last year, and how many of those are student visas?
I forgot the exact number or the breakdown of them. It's over 60 or 70,000 for different and variety of reasons. Some are students, some are people that were not in the country, but we denied them reentry. I can get you the exact numbers. I don't want to be misquoted because that's a rolling number, an average number. But look, this is not a punitive thing. We're going out to try to make examples of it. Our visa system, okay, who you allow to visit your country should reflect the national interest. We said that from the very beginning. It was one of the directives that we got from the president. It's one of the things he ran on. And so our visa process basically is, and there are some times we'll deny people visas because of activities they've undertaken overseas. Other times it's people that have visas but are in the United States doing things that run counter to our national interest. And the law gives us the right, and in fact, I would argue the obligation to remove people like that from our country. And we're going to continue to do it. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, sometimes somebody comes in and says, oh, I want to come in as a student. They're here as a student, and then once they're here, they're involved in nefarious activity. We're going to remove them from the country. But maybe they're here as a researcher. Maybe they're here as, I don't want to say journalist because you guys will get upset, but, you know, it could be anything. You know, these are visitors to the country. A visa is a visitor. It's not a right. By the way, we deny visas every day all over the world. People will go to an embassy, they'll sit for an interview, and the consular officer will deny them a visa because of something that came up in their record, because of something that came up in their interview, whatever it may be. So if you have the power to deny someone a visa before they get one, you most certainly have the power to revoke it once they get one and then do something they shouldn't be doing. So there's a variety of reasons why visas are denied, but all of them are because it implicates our national interest or national security in some way.
You began the briefing by talking about your confirmation hearing, and one of the core commitments or goals you set for yourself in that hearing was to rid the State Department of anti-Semitism and what the president calls DEI ideology. When you look back at the last year, have you done that, sir?
Have we done what? I'm sorry.
rid the State Department of anti-Semitism and DEI ideology?
Well, look, I think there were actions that were being taken that we're very concerned about in terms of statements that were made from some missions around the world or actions that were taken. Ultimately, what the president asked for is a government based on merit, where people were being promoted up because of merit, irrespective of their background, their ethnicity, the color of their skin, the first language they spoke, where they were born. We want to promote people on the basis of merit. We have redone the whole process by which we do promotions in the career foreign service. We've redone it in a way that prioritizes the right things. There were people not being promoted in the State Department because even though they were exemplar foreign officers, their DEI score under the previous administration was too low. There were people that were being, because they weren't committed enough to the DEI cause. So we have very talented people that did not get promoted in the State Department because they did a great job, but they had a low DEI score. We got rid of that. That's not going to exist anymore. We are going to judge people on how good they are at the job that they do. And by the way, we're also opening to promoting people, not just based on seniority. We have some very talented, and I say junior officers, like 10 years, 15 years is considered junior around here. They're very talented. If we don't promote some of these people, we're going to lose them because there's a lot of money to be made in the private sector, and the people want to pursue in life. If people don't see upward mobility where they work, if they don't see the opportunity that by working hard and being successful, I'm going to be able to get ahead, they think they're reading roadblocks, they may leave and go work for another agency or outside of government. So we want to promote good people on the basis of merit. And I do think we have made changes. In fact, I just today approved a list of foreign service promotions for the president to submit to Congress, and it's on that new basis. So I'm really happy with that program. And look, we'll tinker with it, we'll improve it as time goes on, but we thought it was critically important that people be promoted on the basis of merit and skill, and not on all these other things, and certainly not on a DEI score.
Okay, we're turning away from Secretary of State Marco Rubio there, answering a variety of different questions there in Washington, D.C., because we are getting reports of breaking news out of Glendale, Arizona. You're looking at aerial shots there of Luke Air Force Base, where they are responding to reports of an active shooter situation there on the base. Now, we are looking at a Facebook post posted by base officials saying that Luke Air Force Base is responding to a reported active shooter incident on the installation. Personnel on base have been directed to shelter in place and follow guidance from first responders. Law enforcement and emergency personnel are actively responding. They say that the safety of our airmen, families, and community is our top priority, and the public is asked to avoid that area and not to spread unverified information. Officials there on base saying that they will release more information as it becomes available. Our local partner there in that particular area says that the Glendale Police Department at this point says there is no evidence of any shots fired and no evidence of an active shooter present at this time. That is the latest update that just came 6 minutes ago from our media partners who were there in the Glendale, Arizona area. The base posted that original alert that I just read to you about 10:45 this morning on their side. So that would be a few hours. We're a few hours ahead, so roughly within the last hour or so that we're seeing this posted, within the last 45 minutes to be exact. But the latest update that we're seeing from our partner there, our ABC affiliate in the area, is that it appears, according to the Glendale Police Department, no evidence of any shots fired and no evidence of an active shooter at this time. Meanwhile, the base does remain on lockdown as authorities are clearing that building out of an abundance of caution, really, to make sure everything is clear. And again, as I told you, the public is being asked to avoid the area while they do that. And officials with the Luke Air Force Base there in Glendale say that personnel on base have been directed to shelter in place until they are given the all clear. But we wanted to go ahead and to pull that up right away as we got those aerial shots about that situation. Again, Glendale Police Department says at this time there's no evidence of shots fired on the base. However, they are remaining on lockdown as they investigate and look into the reports of an active shooter situation there on the base located in Glendale, Arizona. Okay, we also want to turn our attention to something happening this in Oregon, in which we saw a report here just moments ago that a father and 5 children had to be rescued from a flooding situation out there. I'm trying to pull up the information as we speak. This happened in Molalla, Oregon. You can see their father and 5 kids had to be rescued from floodwaters, which has been an issue there within the last 24 hours within that community. You're seeing there as crews arrived to support and help this family and pull them to safety. I believe their car had gotten stuck, and that is what we are seeing at this point. Was an issue for them. But, you're looking at footage there. This is previously recorded at the moment, but not long ago, within the hour as well. As you can see, the camera crews are trying to get themselves situated there again in this area that's about 45 minutes south of Portland, I do believe, where this took place. And let's see if we can look at a bit of the situation that they found themselves in. This is in the Molalla River, where they became stuck in those floodwaters. Multiple agencies responding to help pull them to safety. You can see the crews there on the scene, and you look at the truck that it appears that they were traveling in and how it got stuck there. And look at how fast the water is moving at this time as well. And you can just imagine that that was a very tricky situation for them. Everyone, we're seeing from reports, was safely removed from that truck, and you saw the moment in which they were placed on rafts and taken to safety. Okay, just judging from that water, I mean, you can just see, again, how fast it is moving at this moment. We have meteorologist Hunter Force and asked him to kind of look at the area around Molalla and see if we saw any reports for flooding or what could have possibly led to that. Hunter, thank you so much for joining us here in our studio. What did you find out? I mean, what is the kind of forecast? Is there anything that you can kind of look to see may have led to some of this the floodwaters taking place?
Yeah, so the West, especially the Pacific Northwest, has just been pounded with atmospheric rivers over the last couple of days. And if we take a look at our satellite radar right now in this area, you could see that atmospheric river pouring into Seattle and Portland over the last 24 hours. And the reason why it's called an atmospheric river is because it looks exactly like that. If you take a look at the clouds pushing onto shore over the last 24 hours and then all of that rainfall, it really is just a river of moisture pushing into Seattle, Portland, and then you see that river basically pushing down to the south. So a lot of the rain started to push into southern Oregon and then northern California over the last 12 hours or so. But this brought a lot of rain to Seattle. There was flooding there a couple of days ago, some major flooding with some of the rivers, and now we're seeing flooding over in Portland. And part of the reason why we're seeing, so much rain coming down in this area is that it's a pretty mountainous region. Not pretty, a very mountainous region. So you also get some of that orographic lift from these atmospheric rivers. So the air gets pushed up into the clouds, and you get more of that rain getting squeezed out from this orographic lift. So that can create more rain falling and causing major flooding issues. So we've already seen, 3, 4, close to 5 inches of rain in parts of these areas. So Mount Hood Village, just to the south, 3 to almost 5 inches. Between Elwood and Sandy, 2, close to 3 inches. Portland, about an inch, 1.7 inches over the last 24 hours. But because these areas are so mountainous, all of the rain and all of the water is getting poured down into the same river basin or a couple of the same river basins. So that's how they get filled up so quickly, and it could take a turn for the worse in just, a matter of minutes. So, 1 minute it looks fine, you could cross the road, and the next minute you have the flow of crazy water coming at you. That's why they call it a flash flood, because it happens right in a flash. So over the last day or so they've been seeing a good amount of flooding, good amount of rain, but luckily the rain has pushed down to the south, so they should start to see improvement as we go throughout the day today and through the weekend as well.
You know, when I look at situations like that, it's a reminder to me, just even rain. You know, we think about just a continuous hard rain, the kind of impacts it can have. We saw it earlier this year in the flash flooding that took place in Texas that became a tragedy in and of itself. We've seen it in other parts of the country. You know, can you tell me a little bit about the geography when it comes to Hampton Roads? Like, if we were to get a continuous amount of rain, for instance, is there something specific to our area where we wouldn't necessarily see the same effects as we saw, like in that portion of Texas outside of San Antonio, or what we're seeing here in this section of Portland?
Well, we certainly wouldn't have that orographic lift because we don't really have many mountains here, specifically in Hampton Roads. Of course, the Appalachians off towards the west, you can get some of that orographic lift, but specifically here, you would really need a system to just kind of stall over the area and just drop tons and tons of rain. Now, we have the Gulf Stream just off the coast, so that's really warm water, you know, pushing off of Florida into the Carolinas. That can also help create a lot of moisture, which could flow into our region. And, you know, if there's a right setup, you could bring in a lot of moisture, a lot of rain to our area. And we've seen major flooding, you know, with certain systems heading into our area. And Franklin, I forget, you know, which year, but there was a specific hurricane, tropical storm that came on through and, you know, flooded the whole town of Franklin from that river that runs through the area. So we've seen it happen before here in Hampton Roads. It certainly could happen again. I mean, take a look at downtown Norfolk. It rains, you get heavy rain for 10 minutes and there's major flooding downtown. So there are certainly possibilities where you could see some major flooding here in the Hampton Roads area. You just get a system that hangs out over us for a long period of time, dumping heavy rain, and you could definitely see some flooding here.
Were you talking about Hurricane Floyd in
Yes.
1999?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hurricane Floyd. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, Hunter, when we're looking at our forecast here in our region, I mean, that is a very beautiful shot that we see behind us. And, you know, the last few days, you know, a shot may look like that, but it was bitterly cold
Freezing,
when we
yeah.
went outside. What's it like now, and are we expecting it to kind of be the same way for the next few days going into the weekend and the holiday?
Well, first of all, can I just say
Yes.
how nice it felt stepping out this morning?
Yeah, man.
I mean, it was just, I skipped to my car. Like, it was so nice. I could not, like, I was so sad I had to get into the car and go to work. I just wanted to just go for a nice walk. And a lot of people went for a nice stroll along the beach today. We were in the mid 60s waking up. Don't get that very often here in December. But we do have some changes on the way. A cold front pushed on through. That's why we saw some of that rain this morning. So we're going to see temperatures dropping throughout the day. Not crazy fast, at least in the beginning. But by this evening, you're definitely going to be feeling some changes. Upper 30s to low 40s if you're heading out. So didn't need a jacket this morning, or if you did, it was very light. But this evening, if you're going out to dinner or doing something for your Friday, a jacket will certainly be needed. It's also still going to be breezy, so it'll be feeling even cooler than that. We have a wind advisory in effect for the Eastern Shore through 10 o'clock tonight for 45 plus mile per hour gusts, and we've already seen some really gusty winds. We've seen gusts close to 45 in Norfolk, 43 in Virginia Beach, close to 50 mile per hour gusts today in Wallops Island, 36 in Suffolk and Chesapeake, 38 in Elizabeth City, 38 mile per hour gusts in Elizabeth City, and it's going to stay breezy through the afternoon before we start to see that coming down overnight and into the day tomorrow. But let's take a look at the weekend. So much cooler on Saturday. And we'll be waking up with temperatures around 30 degrees. So we will have a 30-plus temperature drop heading into tomorrow morning. It is going to be a big difference. And even our highs on Saturday are going to be colder than what we were waking up with this morning. So we'll be in the upper 40s. At least it'll be sunny. So there's that. It'll be feeling more, like the holiday season. But if you do have, any last minute decorations or anything you have to do to get done around the yard this weekend, I mean, it's going to be a good Saturday and Sunday for it. It will be warmer on Sunday. We'll be in the upper 50s, pushing 60. So that would be, an excellent day for, any outdoor things you got to get done. And it's going to stay dry through the entire weekend. And so luckily, if, you're traveling today, tomorrow, Sunday, it's not looking bad for travel plans, at least, weather-wise. Shouldn't be seeing much in the way of impacts, at the airports or on the roads. But if you're heading to D.C., Richmond, Charlottesville, the Outer Banks, I mean, great weather. Cool on Saturday in the upper 40s to low 50s, but even on Sunday, Richmond pushing 60 degrees, 56 in Charlottesville, 53 in D.C. So a lot of places in Virginia and North Carolina looking really nice for the last weekend before Christmas. And we'll see those temperatures dropping a bit after Sunday into the low 40s on Monday. But we hop right back up into the mid-50s Wednesday and Thursday. And then could we see low 60s again on Friday? I sure hope so. The holidays are over, right? I mean, at least on Saturday, we're seeing all of the festivities ending. Because we still have a few more days left of Hanukkah. We have Christmas Eve and Christmas. We have Kwanzaa. And then I believe by next weekend, the holidays are all wrapped up. So it's like it could get warm again. You don't need the Christmassy holiday vibes anymore. You know what I mean?
Do you need Christmassy holiday? Well, not Christmassy, but do you need a cold weather New Year's Eve, or do you prefer a warm?
No.
Okay.
Do you?
I mean, I don't really particularly care because I've never done the outdoor New Year's Eve parties, but I know a lot of people do to watch the ball drop and all that.
Right. And also, you're kind of dressed up. So, at least sometimes. So, it's if you're dressed up, do you want to ruin the vibe with the heavy jacket? No.
Yeah. I guess.
I mean, it depends on what you're going for. Some of us look better when we're dressed up with a nice
heavy
sweater
jacket.
or jacket.
No, I'm talking about, say it was 10 degrees.
Oh.
It's you can't wear a nice, what you're wearing
you
now.
can make it work.
You look very New Year's
can
Eve
make
right
it
now,
work.
Eugene.
Yeah, you do.
You can make it work.
So it's you could toughen through it, if it's 10 out. But if it's 10, you really need an actual winter jacket that doesn't have the New Year's vibe.
Yeah, the swaggy vibe. I get what you're saying.
I get it. But you got it.
But if it's 60, you're good.
Yeah, I don't know. This is funny. I don't like the cold really 363 days out of the year. But there are 2 days where I tolerate it. That's on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve.
And birthday.
On New Year's Day. I don't know. There's something about it that reminds me. It's a little bit of nostalgia on some of my favorite memories outdoors, watching a ball drop or those kind of things. And so I'm cool with it. We talked about, it being a white Christmas. We're not going to get that this year in Virginia.
Nope.
It's the one day of the year I'm okay with snow. All other days, I don't hate it, but I might complain a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's the one day I'm cool with it.
I feel that. No, I don't mind a cool, snowy Christmas. As long as it snowed the day before or 2 days before Christmas. Because my biggest fear is that what if there's a major snowstorm Christmas Eve or Christmas and it ruins all your plans, your traditions. I can't go to my grandma's now because there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. How boring is that going to be? Now I'm cooped up at home. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I want to be able to go out and about, see my friends and family.
True. Or you could do what they're doing right now. I'm just having on our screen. We're looking at the Nauticus camera right now, and you see all of those people who are walking onto that ramp. Well, they're about to get on Carnival Sunshine on their way to the Bahamas. Okay, so they're going to spend the next few days heading to the Caribbean from what we can see based upon the plan for the cruise line. And I imagine, I don't know what time or date they're going to get back, but something tells me that they're going to have a good time and it won't be cold no matter what for them over the next several days.
They are living the dream right now. So not only are they going to have, a nice warm next couple of days, but they don't need to rush onto the boat right now because they can hang out outside here in Norfolk.
Yeah, because it feels really good.
Some of these, last couple of weeks, getting onto the cruise ship, it's been like 30 or 15 degrees. So it's like at least when they're heading out later, they can enjoy it like outside. Like they don't have to be cooped up, in their room until they finally get to like the warm area. So that's nice for them. But look at these temps right now. We're still in the low 60s. Sunshine, 66 in Elizabeth City. Oh my gosh. 61 in Hampton, 63 in Virginia Beach, 62 in Norfolk. Wallops Island, upper 50s. Manio sitting at 63. All the rain's pushed out. We are looking good this afternoon. Any travel plans, you're fine tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, even into Monday. But yeah, we're looking really not bad across a lot of the area and a lot of the East Coast as well. As we take a look at the Futurecast, by this evening, you'll notice the difference. Upper 40s to lower 50s. So any Friday night plans, that jacket certainly needed. Mid to upper 20s tonight. By about 8, 9 o'clock Saturday, the sunshine sticks around. We're in the upper 40s to right around 50 Saturday afternoon. And we stay dry Saturday night. And then by Sunday, we're looking good in the morning. A little bit warmer, quote-unquote, waking up Sunday morning in the lower 40s to even mid-40s in Virginia Beach. But overall, a pretty nice weekend ahead. And the first day of winter is on Sunday. Mid-50s, mid to upper 50s. It'll be feeling more like winter on Monday. We'll be back into the low 40s. But right now, Christmas Eve and Christmas, look at that, mid-50s, sunshine.
Not bad.
Not bad. You can enjoy the outdoors. Maybe grill.
Not bad at all. I feel like they knew that we needed. Hunter's laughing. Hunter, you grilling?
I'll be in Connecticut. No. It'll be too cold.
All right, Hunter, man. We appreciate it. We look forward to having a really solid weekend. But right now, hold on one second. I was about to go to something. But I'm not quite sure if this is the same shot, Naya. But I did want to read out an update that we have before we get. I'm trying to make sure that that is the same shot that we had before. Has it changed at all, or is it the same?
Yes, they just zoomed in.
Okay, all right. So let's go to it right now. So we have been talking about this situation at a Luke Air Force Base. Right before Hunter came up, we were talking about a flooding situation in Oregon. We were telling you about a report of an active shooter situation at Luke Air Force Base in Glendale, Arizona. Okay, our last update to you was that the Glendale Police Department said that there was no evidence of any shots fired or an active shooter situation there. You're looking at aerial shots, we do believe, of the base at the moment, where they have zoomed in, where you can see law enforcement officials there huddled around. Here is the latest update, literally just put up on Facebook from Luke Air Force Base officials in the last 2 minutes. They say that at 10:30 their time this morning, so just within 10:30 their time, the base went on lockdown in response to report of a potential active shooter situation on the installation. As of 11:21 this morning, again their time, the lockdown at the Air Force Base was lifted. That's within the last several minutes, our time here on the East Coast. The 56th Security Forces Squadron, I'm reading what they placed it on Facebook here, and local law enforcement authorities responded immediately and cleared the area that was implicated. No active threat was found. All base operations have been instructed to continue as normal. We have some quotes here from some of the leaders there saying that any report of a potential threat to our people, installation, or equipment is taken seriously at Luke Air Force Base, saying we initiated lockdown procedures to protect our people while our security forces, defenders, and law enforcement partners assess the situation, saying they use these measures decisively and proactively, and today they worked exactly as intended. And so we just wanted to bring you the latest update. Again, that was the situation unfolding there on Luke Air Force Base in Glendale, Arizona. We now know that that situation, the report of an active shooter, was unfounded, which obviously would mean no one is hurt and those things there on the base. It is no longer under lockdown, but you can see officials there are gathering together. Not quite sure if they're discussing whatever it may be, but they are all there as we have these aerial shots at the moment, but not quite sure what's going on because it looks like not sure what's happening. We're just telling you what we got here from the latest information from the Air Force Base, again, within the last 5 minutes, is that the base is no longer in lockdown, that the threat of an active shooter, they say, was unfounded, and people are able to go back about their jobs, their duty, and before people in the community were advised to stay away from that area, again, with that lockdown being lifted, people should be able to do that here again. But clearly this is a case where they saw a threat and they did not want to ignore it. They went immediately into action to make sure that things were okay, clearing the certain areas and checking it out. And they say that's exactly how the process is intended. And with how things have gone here in recent years, you certainly do not want to take any chances. So that is the latest there as we take some final looks here over top of the Luke Air Force Base there in Glendale, Arizona. I'm wondering, I'm sitting there now, I'm looking at them there. I'm fascinated just at the moment with them all gathered around this vehicle. I don't know if they're just kind of coming together to make sure everybody is on the same page. Doesn't really look like there's any major activity that's going on. And if there were, that'd be contradictory to what the actual Air Force Base has just put out. So I'm not seeing anything of note. Maybe they're really just gathering maybe a post of sorts to kind of discuss some things. Let's see if one of our partners out there has an update beyond what we have just been able to report here on the stream. Nah, it doesn't look like they have anything other than what we have that we were just able to discuss. So that is the latest situation out of that. Okay. All right. You know what? For those who are on the stream, Nai, can you go ahead and pull up the VO for Rosado? I'll talk about that for a little bit. We're going to go ahead and bring your attention to something. If you are not with us during the earlier stream, a situation that is unfolding out of Chesapeake right now, which was breaking news this morning. We do have a reporter working on this. Federal officials have accused outgoing Chesapeake Sheriff Dave Rosado and an undersheriff of serious Hatch Act violations, including trying to pressure his staff to directly support his campaign. This is according to the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, which looks into these matters when it comes to violating the Hatch Act. That case also naming Undersheriff Christopher Pascal there in Chesapeake. Now, Sheriff Rosado and his undersheriff are accused of repeatedly using Sheriff's Office personnel, resources, and events to advance Rosado's candidacy. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Hatch Act, it prohibits certain state and local officials and employees from using their official authority to influence elections or coerce political contributions. One of the main purposes of it is to allow for government employees to work in an environment that's free of political coercion, right, or intimidation, basically trying to separate the two in those environments. So some of the things that they are saying that Rosado did, that he's accused of, include directly soliciting money from Sheriff's Office employees for the campaign, and that includes confronting an employee for about $500 in contributions and asking employees about the status of their donations. Again, these are the accusations that have been levied against Rosado, saying that also the Sheriff's Office supervisors were assigned quotas to sell tickets for campaign fundraisers and expected to come up with a balance of the tickets that they did not sell. It says employees were told to canvass neighborhoods, place campaign signs out in the community, and work polling sites during elections, and that employees had reported fear of retaliation if they did not give enough support for Rosado's campaign. Now, if you remember, Rosado's term ends next month. This comes after he lost twice in the last election cycle. The first time He lost to Chadwick Wallace in the Republican primary as a candidate in that. And then the second time he lost in November as a write-in candidate again to Wallace, who will take that seat come January. Rosado has issued a statement. This came in this morning. I'll read it. He says, I quote, "I strongly disagree with the findings referenced by the Office of Special Counsel. As a constitutional officer, I do not believe the OSC has jurisdiction or authority over a local sheriff or my undersheriff under the Hatch Act. We believe these allegations are legally flawed and politically motivated. Both Undersheriff Christopher Pascal and I will be formally appealing this decision through the appropriate legal channels. At all times, my focus has remained on serving the citizens of Chesapeake and carrying out the duties of this office lawfully and responsibly. Because this matter is now under appeal," he says he will not comment further. Again, we do have a team working on the story today to get more information and then maybe getting more comment as well from other officials in the city and beyond. We are expecting to get a report from Madison Schlegel at some point in the afternoon or evening shows today here on 13 News Now. You continue to follow us for more updates on this story on 13newsnow.com and on air as well here on 13 News Now. And of course, we'll provide everything on 13 News Now Plus for those who want to keep up with all of this at the time. So that is the latest that is taking place out of Chesapeake. We want to make sure that we share that information for you. Your time right now, though, is 1:57. And we are monitoring a few things we are expecting to take place today. Now, we just got an update from NTSB that says there will be a briefing on that deadly plane crash that killed former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle, his family, and others in that crash in Statesville, North Carolina. That media briefing will take place today at 3 p.m. Take place at 3 p.m. there in North Carolina. So we're about an hour away from that taking place later today. In the meantime, at any moment, we are expecting to hear from President Trump, who is supposed to be making an announcement from the White House. It was originally scheduled to start at 1 p.m., then was pushed back to roughly 2 p.m. At this time, we don't have a clear time frame of when it will begin, but we do know that we're expecting it to happen at any point within the next few minutes here at the top of the hour at 2 o'clock. Okay, Naya, we can maybe catch our breath for a little while as we are waiting for a few things to kind of kick off and start. But I know yesterday, both of us were in here as that news was breaking for the plane crash and learning that Greg Biffle was on the plane. And now we know that family and friends were there on that plane as well. And so, Naya, yesterday it was a mix of just heartbreak, obviously, and learning about what was taking place, and then so many questions surrounding how it happened that I know we even still have here in the newsroom.
Mm-hmm. It was heartbreaking, and we were watching it all unfold right here live. So it was a lot to sort through.
A lot to sort through. And if you are just now catching up with us here, this happened yesterday around 10:15 at the Statesville Regional Airport. You're looking at images that were captured yesterday morning after that fiery plane crash. Again, former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and family among 7 people killed in that crash in North Carolina. North Carolina Highway Patrol at this point is saying that it's still awaiting confirmation, but Biffle and immediate family members occupied the plane. They're fairly sure 5 adults, 2 children were killed in that. Friends and family have identified Biffle along with his wife Christina and children Ryder and Emma, and NASCAR veteran Craig Wadsworth, Dennis Dutton, and his son Jack. We still don't know what caused this particular crash, but we were able to pull up the kind of track that it took on a site called FlightAware that allowed us to see when the plane took off, and almost immediately it tried to return to the regional airport which, by the way, does not have a control tower there, but does serve a lot of Fortune 500 companies and particularly helps and provides facilities for NASCAR crews. And so we imagine that Biffle would have been very familiar with this particular airport, which, by the way, the private jet that crashed, a Cessna 550, was owned by Biffle and his business. We also learned yesterday in looking at FAA records that Biffle had gotten his certification to fly a plane like this back in March of 2025. So earlier this year in March, we had an Instagram photo that we pulled up that even showed Biffle flying the plane back in September. However, it is unclear who exactly was flying this plane. We've seen through FAA records and multiple reports that not only would Biffle have been able to fly this plane, it's unclear if he would have been able to fly it by himself with that certification, but there were at least 2 other people with pilot's licenses on the plane, that being Dennis Dutton and his son, Jack Dutton, who we know were on the plane through various sources at this point. One thing also we're trying to figure out and learn is what exactly was the nature of the flight that they were taking. We know that they were heading down to Sarasota, Florida, to meet with a friend of the family who is also well-known on YouTube and social media, who was the first to come out and say that Biffle and his family members were on that plane because they were heading to him. The 2 of those individuals met while Biffle was coordinating support for Hurricane Helene victims, which is something that he had been doing, getting pilots together to get resources to the people who were impacted by that storm in North Carolina. And one of the last tweets that we were able to pull up on X was that he was looking to do something similar for people who were impacted by the latest Hurricane Melissa, which we know went through the Caribbean. And by looking at some of the flight scheduling for this plane, it looked like they were scheduled just yesterday to not only go to Sarasota, but also to go to the Bahamas and then come back to Statesville, North Carolina. So still awaiting a little bit more information on that as well. I just want to let you know right now we have our eyes on what looks to be the press conference that will take place, the announcement by President Trump. It has not started as of yet. We're sitting there waiting for it. That is on the bottom there. The top there, are these still the aerial shots there, Naya, that are out of Arizona, or is this looking at something else? Right now it's looking at the sky, so it's kind of trying to figure out what they're doing there. But at the bottom there is the team that is looking for, waiting for the president to come and make his announcement. This may be...
The top was the unveiling of the... Let me see if I can find that information again. I lost it.
Is this a... Okay. So it looks to be they're setting up a camera outside of the Kennedy Center.
Yeah, the new name of the
and they are
Center.
putting on a new name. Now, this is going to be interesting because the board for the Kennedy Center, if you had not known, this broke, I believe, yesterday or within the last 24 hours. They voted to rename the Kennedy Center, obviously named after slain former President John F. Kennedy. They voted to name it the Trump Kennedy Center. Now, officially, the understanding is that in order for this to take place, it would need to be an act of Congress. Congress would need to vote and pass for this name to change, not just the board, in which I do believe the president was named the chair of earlier this year. I can back check that, but I do believe that. It would need to be an act of Congress. Well, almost immediately we saw that the website for the Kennedy Memorial Center had been changed to the Trump Kennedy Center, and it looks like it took absolutely no time for, as you're looking at it live right now, for the current president's name to be added to the Kennedy Memorial Center. And it now does show that it is the Donald J. Trump and John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Arts. So you can see it there at the moment. There are critics who have said that this is not the way in which this process is supposed to go, that it is not, quote, official, but this goes in line with other things that we've seen so far within the administration. Those same critiques people had when it came to renaming the Department of Defense as the when it comes to the Secretary of War, not the Secretary of Defense. This has been a consistent conversation now throughout at least the administration, where they believe that they have the authority and the ability to just change these names, and that is what they are doing. And so there you have it there off the bat, as that photographer is trying to get things situated on their own. They have changed the name there for the Kennedy Center, placing President Trump's name next to JFK officially on the building. Naya, let's do one thing while we're waiting. I know I'm jumping back and forth here, but I'm going to bring up Scan PC, and I'm going to bring up a few things in terms of the crash for Biffle and his family. If I can pull up, we were charting just many of the things that were pouring out in support of the family and condolences as well. And I want to do so. I don't think this is it. Hold on, give me 1 second. Was that it? Let's see. All right, we're gonna work on getting these things up here real quick, because we have been seeing coming in over the last 12 or 24 hours or so, multiple people expressing their condolences, their heartbreak for the loss of the Biffle family and all those who were impacted there in that plane crash. Including many prominent figures in NASCAR and NASCAR itself and the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I'll pull this up really quickly and show you. Okay, while we are waiting for the president to make some announcement, I just want to kind of go step by step here. We have NASCAR racer Denny Hamlin, who posted to social media there yesterday saying, "Today the motorsports world lost one of its fiercest competitors and kindest souls," calling Greg Biffle a champion on the track and a humanitarian author whose impact reached far beyond racing. And there he lists his family members and others who we have heard from multiple family sources and people who loved them and knew them that were on that plane, mentioning again Biffle's wife, Christina, children, Emma and Ryder, and Craig Wadsworth, who was a NASCAR veteran as well, Dennis Dutton, and his son, Jack, who we've now learned both had pilot licenses. Denny Hamlin saying that his heart goes out to all of their families and loved ones. Let's go to the next one that we have there too. Just a series of various posts that we are seeing here this morning. Also from Jeff Gordon, NASCAR great, posting saying, "Devastating news, such tremendous respect for Greg as a driver, saying that they shared countless tough battles on the track, and saying, like so many others, he was inspired by his relief work during Hurricane Helene. His heart going out to the Biffle family and everyone hurting. We told you about Biffle's coordinating to support people who were victims of Hurricane Helene, working with various pilots to get resources to people who were stranded and without the ability to get resources during that time in the aftermath of that storm and the flooding that took place. Let's go to the next one here, too. This is from NASCAR directly. NASCAR officials saying that they are devastated at the loss. One of our 75 greatest drivers who became known for his relentless post-career humanitarian work. Again, we had reported that yesterday when we were talking about Greg Biffle and his impact on racing, and him being listed as one of the 75 greatest drivers in NASCAR history. And so obviously a major loss for the community there in the NASCAR. And let's go to the next one here, Naya, as well. Here, I do believe, can I X out of that? And this coming from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Not only was he ranked one of 75 greatest drivers, but this is from NASCAR Hall of Fame's Winston Kelly on his passing, that Biffle was a NASCAR Hall of Fame nominee, giving his love to his family and then also the others who we know were on that plane. And reading a little bit from the statement, saying that he wanted to offer his sincere condolences to all of the families involved in this, highlighting Biffle's accomplishments, saying they are extensive as represented by his nomination to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, but eclipsed by the quality person that he was. So there you have it. Not only was he one of the NASCAR 75 greatest drivers, but he was also in the running to become a part of the NASCAR Hall of Fame at the time. So it's certainly a devastating loss for all who are part of the sport, and obviously for family members right ahead of the holidays too. Naya, I mean, just terrible, terrible, terrible situation. And again, we are waiting to hear from the NTSB. Around 3 o'clock today, we're expecting to hear our first report from federal officials about what took place. And typically after that, you likely will not hear more information from them, an official report, for several months. That is typically how the process works. And so we said this yesterday, that at some point we would expect to hear from the FAA and NTSB, who were on the scene just hours after that crash yesterday, taking over the investigation. But here we are now. We know that we will be hearing from them some point today at 3 p.m. is when it is scheduled. We also had a picture that we had pulled up from Instagram that showed Biffle in the pilot seat of the exact plane that crashed, the tail number matching the number that is there, posted on his own Instagram account. This was back in September, on September 14th, where he posted that he was excited to get back flying again, was the post. You can see him there navigating in the pilot seat. There you see the tail, the number for that plane, that Cessna 550 that he owned there in North Carolina. Again, we're not clear exactly how the plane crashed at this time. We just know where, what time, and we know how many people were on it. And now we've learned the names of individuals on there. Again, those 5 adults and 2 children killed, including Biffle and his family. There was a video that he had posted to YouTube, and this was, I think, the best showcase of what he was doing for people in the community post his racing career. He posted a video 1 year after Hurricane Helene, not long ago, which highlights some of the efforts that he and others were able to do to support people who were impacted. You heard us read off what Jeff Gordon had said about how he was inspired by his works during that time. But let's go ahead and listen to Biffle in his own words and see some of the pictures there. Again, we'll do this as we also await for the President of the United States to make an announcement. A little bit behind at the moment, but we are expecting to hear from him soon. But now let's listen to Biffle talking about his passion and the efforts to support victims of hurricanes.
Ago today, many lives were changed forever, including mine, when Hurricane Helene came all the way from the Gulf through Florida, Georgia, and made its way all the way to the mountains, western North Carolina. Who would have thought that a hurricane could have made it that far with that much power still, to drop nearly 30 inches of rain in a short amount of time? None of us knew what had happened. I was working at my shop like a normal day. Of course, I knew there was heavy rains and some power was out. But until I got that post that someone needed help, and I had to make a game time decision, and I never imagined the decision I made would change my life and many people's lives forever, that I was blessed with the opportunity to have the resources, have the time, and have the money to go help another family that was stranded in the mountains in North Carolina. Doing my proper paperwork, getting ready to get out of here. Go grab a case of water.
I think you should bring this with you.
All right, you were just looking at some clips there that posted by Biffle himself during his support for Hurricane Helene victims. At this time, we have President Trump, who is stepping to the podium to make an announcement from the White House.
Working on it for quite a while. And Howard, how much have we sold in a few days?
$1.3 billion worth in a matter of a couple of days.
That's essentially it's the green card on steroids, and it's a pathway, and it's been an amazing thing. And as you know, millions of people pour into our country from the border, and not anymore. They don't know, nobody comes in actually anymore. But under the Biden administration, 25 million people came in, and they came from prisons and mental institutions, and they were drug dealers, and all sorts of people came in that shouldn't be here. They came from the jails all over Venezuela, all over the world, the Congo. And now when they come in, they have to pay $1 million. And we've had a tremendous surge, and you're going to be happier than anybody because when you go to Harvard and the Wharton School of Finance and all of the great schools, and you want to hire somebody, and then you find out that, I'm sorry, they can't stay in our country for more than 24 hours. They graduate from the top schools. These people want to hire them. Now you're able to buy a card, and you're able to keep people in the country. They can't keep people in the country, and they go to Canada, they go to other countries. A lot of times they go to Canada even though they work for the companies behind me. So now you're able to buy, the companies are able to buy the card and use it for people coming in to our country so they can stay in our country instead of being immediately shipped out after graduating. They graduate number one in their class at the best school, and they want to go to work for Johnson & Johnson, as an example, who's not here today, who will be here next week. They're well represented here. But they want to go to work for one of the great companies behind me, and you learn they can't do that because they're shipped out of the country. They're not shipped out anymore. So Your company will pay a little bit, but that's okay. You'll be able to get them. So I just wanted to, it's called the Gold Card, the Trump Gold Card. Quite a beautiful thing. And you've taken in just a few days, you've taken in over $1.5 billion. That goes all toward reducing debt, goes into the Treasury of the United States. And I thought I'd do this before we start on Most Favored Nations. I want to read this because I would have said it the other night, but I was not allotted too much time, actually. You had a couple of brand new shows opening, and I understand that. But I do want to say, and some people say, oh, you shouldn't say it. It sounds negative. To me, I think it sounds positive. The only reason our unemployment tucked up and went up to 4.5%, which it went up to 4.5%, which is quite a low number, but still, is because we are reducing the government workforce by numbers that have never been seen before. In other words, government jobs are way down. And as you know, we don't need 10 people to fill one job, which is what we had in government in many cases. So the government workforce, by numbers that have never been seen before, has been reduced very substantially, and it will continue to be reduced. 100% of our new jobs are in the private sector. So this is for the last number of months. Think of that, 100%. Are you shocked to hear that? That's the way to make America great again, what do you think, right? It's the only way. 100% of new jobs are in the private sector. And I could reduce unemployment to 2%, 1%, or practically zero by just hiring people into the federal government, even though those jobs are not necessary, which is what we had before. We had millions and millions of people having jobs that they never even showed up. So I wish that the media would report that the 4.5% is an amazing number. And again, if they don't report it, I guess maybe I'll just let some people go into the federal workforce. It'll look really wonderful. And what we're doing is the only way you can do it to make a country great. You can't have the government jobs, you have to have the private sector jobs. And these are among the biggest hires of private sector. So we have reduced the federal workforce by tremendous hundreds of thousands of people. And that reflects in unemployment, but that will be used up very quickly. And we've 100% of the new jobs, which, by the way, it's a record-setting number of jobs, too, is in the private sector. And I think that'll get even stronger when these buildings being built all over the country, of which they're building some, too, but AI and auto plants and everything else, they're being built all over the country. When that happens, your numbers will be even better. But I would like you to report it the way it is. We don't do the federal workforce jobs. We're reducing that very substantially. I'm thrilled to be joined by the leaders of 9 of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers, all very big names, celebrities in their own right, very, very powerful people, and they head some of the most admired companies anywhere in the world. It's a great group. To announce that they've agreed to offer many of their flagship drugs, really all of their flagship drugs, at heavily discounted, most favored nations prices. In other words, whatever the drug sells for over the world, in the world, whatever the lowest number is, if it's Germany, if it's in UK, anywhere, we will match that price. Right now, sometimes it's 10 times higher. We've been laughed at and scoffed at for years. For years. In fact, I was going to do it in my first term, but unfortunately, with the advent of COVID, as you would say, it was not, I don't think it was a very good time to be hitting up Spain, Italy, France, but now we're doing it. So the hardest thing to do was going to be to get a country to do it, because we would have a pill in New York that was for sale for $130, and you could buy it in Germany and France and Spain and someplace anyways. They set their own prices for $10. So we'd pay 10 or 13 times more, pay 5 times more, pay all different prices. Now, whatever the lowest price is. Now, the pharmaceutical companies were difficult, but they also love our country. They knew it was unfair. And they were great. I appreciate it. But the bigger problem was going to be the countries. How are you going to get the countries to do it? And we told them, if you don't do it, we're going to have to use tariffs, and we're going to charge you a 10% tariff, which is far more money than the money we're talking about. And they immediately agreed to do it. So we have all the foreign countries agreeing to do it. If we didn't have the use of tariffs, we would never be able to do this. But we used tariff, and they said, is it a threat? I said, yes, it is a threat. And they said, we will do it. And they dropped the price. So what's happening, because the world is bigger than the United States in terms of people, that same pill would go from $10 to $20 for them, which is an increase, but it wouldn't go to, midway. But it would go from $10 to $20. Ours would go from $130 to $20. So we dropped way down. They went up a little bit. And everyone knows it's the way it is. They, for years, would just say, no, as medicine got more expensive for us, it would stay. They said, nope, you can't sell it in this country. Let the United States pay. And we had other presidents, all of them, said, okay, we'll pay. So we were subsidizing the entire world. We're not doing it anymore. This is the biggest thing having to do with drugs in the history of the purchase of drugs. And I don't think the maybe press will treat it as a story. This is the biggest front page story that you'll ever see. This is a huge bearing too on the healthcare, because a big part of healthcare is drugs, pharmaceuticals, right, Oz? And this will have a tremendous impact on the reduction of healthcare. The biggest impact is going to be that the money should be paid not to the insurance companies, directly to the people, and the people will buy their own healthcare. So we're going to be working that. The problem is that the Democrats are very much controlled by the insurance companies that make all that money, but we're not going to let that happen. Starting next year, American drug prices will come down fast and furious, and will soon be among the lowest in the developed world. So in other words, whatever the lowest price for a certain drug, of which these companies make much of it, whatever the lowest price is, that price will come down to that price. So we will get the lowest price anywhere in the world. If they're lower in England than they are in Germany, we take the England price. As of today, 14 out of 17 largest pharmaceutical companies have now agreed. 14 out of 17. Oh, those three they're in deep trouble. But actually, they've agreed, because I think those three companies are coming in at a different time next week. So they've agreed. Johnson & Johnson is one of them, right?
After the holidays.
Why? They couldn't do it faster?
No, we're going to be talking about Trump RX.
Oh, okay. Trump RX. Trump RX is doing well. As of today, 14 out of the 17 largest pharmaceutical companies, but they've all agreed, have now agreed to drastically lower drug prices for their American patients, for the American people and patients. This represents the greatest victory for patient affordability in the history of American healthcare by far, and every single American will benefit. So this is the biggest thing ever to happen on drug pricing and on healthcare. This will have a tremendous impact on healthcare itself. I want to thank Sanofi CEO Paul Hudson. Paul? Hi, Paul. I hope they have you in some order. I'll be checking.
Alphabetical, yes, but...
Okay, well, we'll do the best we can. Thank you, Paul. Great company, by the way. Novartis CEO Vas Narasimhan. Thank you very much, Vas. Great job. Genentech CEO Ashley Megaragri. Where are you, Ashley? How are you? Hi. Thank you very much. Great companies. Behringer Inc. President John Michael Bors. John Michael, thank you very much. Gilead CEO Dan O'Day. Dan? Thank you, Dan. Great job. It's a good company. Bristol Myers Squibb Executive Vice President Carrie Gallman. Carrie? Thank you, Don. Thank you very much. GSK CEO Emma Wormsley. Emma? Thank you very much, Emma. Great job. Merck CEO Rob Davis. Great company. Thank you. Great company. How long have you been CEO?
Almost 5 years.
Very good. You're doing a good job. And Amgen Executive Vice President and CFO, Peter Griffith. Peter? Thank you, Peter, very much. Thank you very much. You okay? Fake news. We want you to be healthy. Are you all right? The camera's not okay, but she's okay. That's more important. We have good medicine for you if you need some medicine. One of them can take good care of it. We're also joined by Secretaries Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Howard Lutnick, Ambassador, and really some incredible ambassadors, Administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, and the FDA Commissioner, Marty McCary. They're doing a phenomenal job. Thank you. Thank you, fellas. Good job. For decades, Americans have been forced to pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs by far, not just a little bit. We were like a whipping post, the United States, and it's just been 4% of the world's population. We have 4% of the world's population, and consumers pay only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits. Think of that. So we have 4% of the population, 13% of prescription drugs, and yet the people behind me, who are wonderful people, make 75% of their profits from the American customer. So they understood that better than anybody, that we have to do something. That's why I signed an executive order instructing my administration to do everything in its power to slash prescription drug prices for Americans while getting other countries to pay more. And we don't want more. We want this fair. We want to pay the same thing. They used to blame it, remember, on research and development. And I said, well, research and development for everybody. And everybody understood it. As a result, the United Kingdom's National Health Service agreed to pay the fair share for prescription drugs for the first time in 26 years. And we expect other countries in Europe will do the same. And if they don't, we're going to put tariffs on them, and we'll get the same amount of money, plus we'll take a nice return on the money. We signed historic agreements with Pfizer, Eli Lilly, AstraZeneca, Novo Nordisk, and EMD, Serrano, to reduce prices by 300, 400, 500, 600, and even 700%, and sometimes even more than that. I remember when I had a news conference in my first term, I was the first president that reduced prices from the beginning of my term to a year, from January to December, 0.25%. And I thought it was the greatest thing, because it's the first one in 28 years. Now we're talking about numbers that are so incredible. 0.25%. Think of that. I was proud of it, because it hadn't happened in 28 where drug prices went down. Well, now you're going to see numbers that nobody would believe possible. Think of that. 500, 600, 700, 800%. Today we're building on these accomplishments. The companies assembled in this room have agreed to offer all of their drugs to Medicaid and most favored nations pricing. You're going to get most favored nations pricing, meaning they're going to pay our country the lowest price paid anywhere in the world. And they will list their most popular drugs on TrumpRx.gov. TrumpRx.gov. And I didn't name it that. Somebody named it that. And I guess they assumed that was, did you name it, Oz? Or Bobby name it?
We all named it together.
Okay, well, I'm honored to have the name. And so far that's turned out, because the numbers are so incredible. It's an honor. And you're going to get massive discounts to all consumers. So massive discounts will be not even offered. It's just going to be a fact. All consumers will get massive discounts. That's TrumpRx.gov. Every new drug produced by these companies in the future will permanently be offered to American patients at most favored nation prices. You know, people used to talk about that for years, but nobody ever did anything about it. No other president did. And it wasn't easy, but it worked out great. And I'm so proud of the people behind me. As an example of the price reductions we have secured through these new agreements, Santa Fe will cut the cost of its blood thinner, Plavix, from $750 to less than $16. Wow. Where's Santa Fe? Where are you? What? That's incredible, huh? Could have gone to $17, maybe. That's amazing. And you're going to do tremendous business. You're going to do much more business. So that's coming from $750. Think of that, $750. And that's the number one blood thinner. I don't want to know about that. I take an aspirin. To less than $16. Think of that. Bristol Myers Squibb, great company, both great companies, will cut the price of HIV medication, Rayurtaz, from nearly $1,500, $1,500 to $217. And it will cut the cost of hepatitis B medication, Baraclude, from $1,400 to $413. Gilead will cut the hepatitis C medication, Epclusa, from nearly $25,000 to less than $2,500. And all prices are like that because we're bringing them down to the world's lowest price, everything. And these people really are pioneers. What they're doing is so great. And in the end, they're going to do much more business, and I think it's going to even out for them as a company. The countries will have to pay more, but even for them, because of the fact that the world is quite a bit bigger, it won't be very severe, I hope. I also want to thank these companies and their incredible executives for their generous contribution to American national security, because it's really what it is. It's, to a large extent, national security in addition. You can't continue to pay 13, 14 times more than other countries and think you're going to have security. Collectively, they will invest over $150 billion to build up domestic pharmaceutical manufacturing in America. They're going to be, because of tariffs, they're coming in, and I think because of the love of our country, and maybe because of the November 5th election, but because of tariffs, they're going to be coming in. They're building already. Just about all of them have started. They're building their plants in all states all over the country, and they're building incredible pharmaceutical plants. We're going to have close to 100% of our pharmaceuticals in a very short period of time made in the USA. As part of these agreements, Merck will also donate 3.5 tons of antibacterials to be placed in America's strategic reserve. Thank you very much. GSX will donate over 200 pounds of ingredients to make rescue inhalers, which is a big deal, and Bristol Myers Squibb will donate 6.5 tons of blood thinners. We appreciate it. Such amazing companies. Every president for a generation has promised to reduce drug prices, but they were talking about a little bit like that. I am the only one of them to ever even think in terms of favored nations, and that's what this is. Favored nations. It's called most favored nation. We are now a most favored nation. I want to thank the leaders in the room, and I also want to thank the leaders of all of the countries that had to pay a little more so that we were treated fairly. I really do. I want to thank the leaders of countries. And they knew the alternative was not much of an alternative, because if they didn't do it, we were going to charge them tariffs, and the tariffs would have been much more severe than what they did. But they did do it as soon as they realized about the tariffs. Then they did it very easily. No, they're very good people. Let's start with Amgen's Executive Vice President, who I already introduced, and I introduced the people here. So I'd like to ask Bobby and Oz to say a few words, and also I'd like to ask if anybody would like to speak on behalf of your company, or just say how great this country is doing. And you're all building tremendous facilities now in the United States instead of other countries that we all know about. But if you'd like to say something. So Oz, do you want to start? And Bobby?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Mr. President, he gets taller with time here.
Mr. President, each of the 9 CEOs will speak very briefly about what they have done, because it is a patriotic effort. This is affordability in action. We talk about it in abstract, but this is not an abstract concept. This is a very concrete, tangible, personal reality, because we've got moms with sick children who cannot afford their medications. Working families cannot make ends meet. Seniors on fixed income. We have 80 million people who have to pay more than $100 a month for their prescriptions. They just can't keep up. So this is a hardcore approach to this, driven by a bold leader who's taken bold action. With that bold action, we've now created a standard for the industry. The 9 leaders behind us run the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. They're joining 5 other companies that have been through this White House process over the last 2 months. I want to make sure you appreciate that it doesn't happen with just the people in the room. They're wonderful individuals: Chris Klump, Inma Hernandez, John Brooks, Theo Merkel, Corey, Heidi. A lot of folks work their tails off to make this happen, and that's why we've gotten to the finish line. The prices that President Trump left to the next administration on pharmaceuticals have gone up 25% until the president took office. We are reversing that trend and making sure that Americans can afford to get the life-saving solutions. Because if these brilliant innovators create solutions to cancer and hypertension, hepatitis, and a bunch of other viruses, illnesses that have been lethal throughout human history, but you can't afford them, then we're not treating you fairly. And that's why what the president has done is so critically important. He mentioned quickly the amount of money that they've contributed towards our strategic stockpile and to building in this country. But fundamentally, the health of the American people will benefit because this president took bold action. And from my personal position, I couldn't do anything I do without Secretary Kennedy, who just does not take no for an answer and will call me even more than the president does to make sure things happen right. Mr. Secretary. Even more.
That's not nice. I don't think that's true. I think we got a lot of calls from the president, and at one point in this negotiation, we both stopped answering our phones late at night because we couldn't take it anymore. But I want to thank you, Mr. President, for doing this. President Trump, when he was up here a moment ago, talked about how historic this is and how every one of the news outlets in here ought to have World War III size headlines about this. And I was reminded about how astonishing this achievement is. A couple of days ago, when one of my sons, 29 years old, very, very left-wing Democrat, and disagrees with a lot of the policies of this administration, he called me and he said, "Dad, I want to tell you how proud I am about this. This is the best achievement that could happen to our country." This is something Bernie Sanders has been clamoring for 25 years. Elizabeth Warren has been clamoring for. Joe Biden promised the American people. President Obama, President Clinton all promised to do this for the American people. All of them expressed their outrage, their indignation that we are paying 1/10 in some cases the price of drugs that they're selling in Europe. We developed them here. We manufactured some of them in New Jersey. We were paying $1,300 for a drug manufactured in New Jersey. The same drug manufactured in the same plant was being sold for $88 in London. And everybody recognized how unfair this was. We were paying for all the innovation in this country. And yet, the rest of the world was free riding on it. And President Trump told me and Dr. Oz at the beginning of this term, this is what I want you to do. And he leaned on us. I think both of us were very skeptical at that point that it could be done. But I would say this is a miracle. And I'm very grateful to all the CEOs who saw the sense in this, who understood the injustice and the unsustainability of the system, and who put public health, and particularly the public health of Americans, ahead of some of their other priorities. And all of them came to the table, and President Trump asked us to do 3 things. 1, to deliver the lowest prices in the world and make this affordable for Americans. Number 2, to do it in a way that we would not hurt innovation, that we would keep America as the incubator and the dominating force in innovation around the world. And 3, to bring drug manufacturing home to this country. I can tell you by the end of this term, 95% of the drugs we will have MFN. In other words, Americans will be paying the lowest price in the world, or 95% of the drugs. You talk about affordability. People are talking about affordability. Nobody has done anything for affordability greater than this. So I want to thank you, President Trump, for your leadership, for your vision, and for your relentless harassment of us to make sure this all got done. And I really want to just thank all of the CEOs, all these companies, for coming to the table in good faith, working out a very, very pragmatic agreement that allows them to continue to do the innovation that is going to save lives and alleviate suffering around the world, and do it in a way that is more fair to the American people. Thank you.
So we're going to, I'll go back, yeah, Howard first.
So this is an example of what President Trump does. It's the entire administration, the whole government working together. Bobby and I met at the beginning of the administration of how we could work together to bring drug prices down, as the president instructed, and bring manufacturing home. So they've said they're going to have 95% of the drugs be at the lowest price in the world. And when we walked in, and the president walked in, we were making about 16% of our drugs were being made in America, right? And we are having hundreds, the people behind us are committed hundreds of billions of dollars to bring their manufacturing here and bring their research here. And that employs Americans and keeps our drugs produced safely. You want to know when you take that drug is made in America, overseen by the FDA, and it is safe. So the president not only is driving prices down, he's doing a 1-2 punch of bringing production here. And the third thing he's doing is when you take that drug, you know it was made in America, protected by Americans, and it's safe. And I can't be more proud. I think this is the most impressive thing I've ever seen, because none of you, and even none of us, thought this was possible. Only President Trump, he knew it, he drove it, and he has delivered it here today. And I can't be more proud to be standing next to him, because this is delivering for America.
Thank you. Very good. We'll start with Amgen. It is alphabetical.
If you'd like to say something, feel free to do that.
They're all going to say something short, so go ahead.
Good. Well, you go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President.
To the podium.
To the podium. Here we go. We're going to move it back up, get taller again. Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity to work with you to improve the affordability of medicines for American patients. Amgen recently launched Amgen Now, a direct-to-patient option for Repatha that cuts out PBM middlemen and significantly improves affordability for people who are uninsured, facing high out-of-pocket costs, or paying on their own. Repatha will also soon be added to TrumpRx.com. A U.S.-based pioneer for more than 4 decades, we've invested more than $40 billion in U.S. research and manufacturing since 2018, supported by pro-innovation policies that you've championed. Thank you again, Mr. President. We look forward to continuing to work together to deliver meaningful benefits and innovation for U.S. patients.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jean-Michel Boers from Boehringer Ingelheim. It's a true honor to be here for an agreement that we believe will make a true difference for American patients. For 140 years, Boehringer Ingelheim, a family-owned company, has been committed to improving health and outcomes to save lives of patients. With today's agreement, we believe that we have actually struck the delicate balance that there is to protect America's leadership in research and innovation, and at the same time ensure that patients pay a fair price for their medicines. So from rare diseases in oncology or pulmonary fibrosis, where we do research into chronic diseases, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, obesity maybe in the future, I will go quick. We will continue to work for the American patients. We are onshoring manufacturing to the U.S. to very rapidly, within the time of this administration, have the majority of our products produced in the U.S. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bristol Myers Squibb is an American company that for more than 6,500 years has been protecting and extending American lives. And today I'll make two very brief announcements. One, we are very proud to announce that we will provide Eliquis, our #1 prescribed medicine, to Medicaid for free. We're also answering the administration's calls, as the president said, to shore up the national medicine reserves by donating more than 6.5 tons of Eliquis. These actions build on BMS's commitment to invest $40 billion in the U.S. in research and development and manufacturing. And these investments reflect our enduring commitment to work with the administration to improve patient lives. So thank you. Thank you.
It's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for shining a light on the importance of our innovation and getting all countries to pay for this innovation. I'm proud to represent Genentech, America's first biotech company. We are offering our flu medicine, which is very important this year given the severity of the flu, Xofluza, for $50 direct to patients, and that's a 70% price reduction, and that also will be available on TrumpRx. We're also very proud of our $50 billion investment in U.S. manufacturing and new research labs. Our new facility in North Carolina will bring 11,000 jobs to America. These are important steps forward for Americans and also for patients. Thank you very much.
I see your rendering is beautiful, what you're building. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, to you and the administration. I think this objective of achieving the commitment to affordability and future innovation is extraordinary. And let me just say that the company I represent, Gilead Sciences, the scientists reach for cures every day. In fact, they've come up with medicines that have cured both certain forms of hepatitis and also certain forms of blood cancer. And we just recently launched a new medicine that's only given twice a year to prevent HIV. And we're working with Secretary Kennedy and his entire team, as well as the State Department, as a part of your ex-US strategy to support ending the epidemic really during your term. And so we look forward to working with you on that. I've never been more optimistic about the innovation that exists across these companies and the impact this can have on America's health and economy. Thank you very much.
Well with HIV.
Yeah, it literally prevents HIV almost 100% given twice a year. And so the America First State Department strategy, we've partnered with them, and we're also partnering with Secretary Kennedy and his team. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
GSK cares deeply about improving the affordability of medicines, which is why today we're announcing for the 40 million Americans who live with asthma or COPD, we're going to be significantly lowering the cost of the medicines they rely on to breathe more easily every day. We're going to be going direct on 8 of our core medicines with deep discounts, and we're investing in American health security by donating the ingredients that go into rescue inhalers like this one so that people can access them when they need them. This triple win is on top of our commitment to invest $30 billion in American manufacturing, American research, American technology, and American talent. And all of this to do the right thing for American patients, whether that's John in North Carolina, who says he can now visit with his granddaughters without worrying whether will have to struggle for breath, or Marsha in Kentucky, who says if her asthma inhaler is cheaper, she can properly celebrate with her family this holidays. Mr. President, thank you so much for your ambition for American patients and for the partnership of all of your teams so we get ahead of disease together.
Thank you very much. Very much. Great company.
Mr. President, as the others have said, I just want to say thank you for your leadership. I reflect on your goal of driving affordability and access to Americans, but equally getting prices up outside the United States, and we're 100% supportive of your actions. As many of the colleagues have talked about, I represent Merck, and we also are looking to what we can do on TrumpRx.gov. In addition to bringing in our diabetes drugs, one of the things I just wanted to highlight, we have a novel oral cardiovascular drug, which has an opportunity to meaningfully lower LDL and really still go after what is the leading cause of death in the United States, which is cardiovascular disease, kills 1 million people in the United States annually. And thanks to TrumpRx.com, you will not only be able to get this pill and have an easy-to-take pill, but it'll be easy to get and it'll be affordable. So I appreciate your leadership and look forward to continuing to partner with you. Thank you.
Great company. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, my name is Vas Narasimhan, CEO of Novartis. Novartis is a 250-year-old company, and today we're the global leader in bringing advanced technologies to patients in the United States around the world, technologies like radioligand therapies and cell and gene therapies. What I want to highlight to you is we're bringing the manufacturing of these technologies to the United States now. We've committed to build 9 new facilities. 7 of them we already have a groundbreaking for. Dr. Makari was with me in North Carolina. We were opening up 4 new plants. Our plan is to scale manufacturing here and ensure all our critical medicines, including these most advanced technologies, are made here in the United States for U.S. patients.
Thank you very much.
So first of all, thank you, Mr. President. I think you've convened on an extremely important subject and made more progress than perhaps anybody ever thought was frankly possible. For Sanofi, this is another day to reaffirm our commitment to patients, our unwavering support to trying to do the right thing to help patients get better outcomes. Put simply, affordability has been at the heart of that for a very long time. Having concluded this contract with the President and the administration, we find ourselves able, as a joint effort, to go further than we ever thought was possible. And that's kudos to you and for what you have done. Improving affordability and preserving innovation and rewarding innovation is a very difficult balance to take. I think we feel the negotiations and the conversations have had the patient at the center throughout the entire time, as difficult as it may have been on occasions. I think what many can learn from the way this was handled, put simply, is that when you bring industry and you bring government together with the spirit of doing the right thing for patients, it is almost limitless what can be achieved. So on behalf of Sanofi, I'd like to thank you, Mr. President, and the team for what has been simply an incredible amount of progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you, sir.
So, as I watch, these are the greatest business leaders, and they're beyond that. Many are doctors, and they ended up running the biggest businesses in the country. But you've done so much. And you made it a lot easier than we thought it would be. You were just, you understood to do the right thing. And as I was watching, and I know all of them, not personally, a couple of them personally, but I know them all through reading lots of business magazines and other magazines and newspapers. These are highly respected people. And I said to myself, look at what they've done. They've done something that, and as you said, something that you never thought was possible to get done. Most people thought for the United States to have favored nations where we have the lowest drug price in the world is unthinkable. And I said to myself, we have a thing called the Unaffordable Care Act. It's unaffordable because the insurance companies make so much money, and the insurance companies totally control the Democrats. And I said to myself, standing watching these great leaders, and we have 4 other leaders coming in, Johnson & Johnson and 4 other very big companies, actually, very great companies. They've all agreed. And they'll be coming in next week, and we appreciate them too. But they've agreed to the same thing, lowest price anywhere in the world.